before we prepare for a 4:15 guest, Nick Halter, to talk Wolves/Lynx Arena talk. This is from Brett out of Inver Grove Heights. With respect to the Wolves, we cannot completely disregard the regular season. Most of us thought that there were too many lackluster efforts that led to a number 6 seed in the West. I'm with you regarding the injuries the team has sustained during the playoffs, but it's still incumbent on management to ask if this group, both players and coaches, has gone as far as they can. I have no problem with those observations. None. I think they're fair. You can't, in all honesty, ever get too lost in a single moment.
Yeah.
And not think enough about the big picture. And my guess is they already are, and they will continue to do so regardless of how they move forward. Now, the tricky part would be if you've convinced yourself that I think we really were, as odd as this sounds, ready to make a run, maybe even again past San Antonio Davy, because we've figured some things out with this group. But could that be fool's gold? Could you say, but yeah, we didn't figure them out long enough? And mature teams understand that and put themselves in a better position from the get-go in the playoffs. But all of that, the injuries shouldn't get in the way of some clear-eyed, objective analysis of everything involving this organization. I think on the coach's side, I don't think Finch is in any danger. I think this is more about the players and the mix and whether, all right, I got an idea. Somebody that we might even know that might be available, but ends up in a trade. There's always going to be talking about Giannis. I don't think Giannis is going to end up here, but all that I think is absolutely fair.
That's such a good text because since last weekend, I've been thinking about that big stuff. Really, after the Finchy jumped their asses, lied to us.
Right.
Because the theory all year, what everybody kept telling us, what the team kept telling us is we've got to switch. We'll be fine. Yes. Ant was saying in December we're bored with the regular season, maybe even been earlier than that. And so the big question is, did what they did in that small sample before Ant and Dante got hurt, does that buy you off to say, man, I really do believe in this team.
Run it back.
I think this team could.
Absolutely.
With obviously more tweaks and some other things. And at some point, Rudy's going to age. And at some point, Mike Conley's not going to be here. And hopefully they can sign Ayo Dosunmu and all of those things. Because I've been thinking about it all week. Like, did the short sample size, really just talking about games 2 and 3, did that validate what the team had been telling us all year that, okay, yes, or is it still, I don't know. We're not going to get in. We didn't have enough. They should never be a number 6 seed with this group.
I'm not going to be fooled again.
Yeah, it's just an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah,
I've thought about it a lot.
You can look at this series a completely different way, too. You can say, again, as annoyed as Finchy was, rightly, after game 1, as annoyed as we all were.
Yeah, I was annoyed.
It was a 2 or 4 point game with 3 minutes to go.
I know.
So if you actually play that game the way they did healthy going forward from there, the series is over. It's over in 5. But, of course, that's a massive if, but it speaks to what has to be addressed objectively. And as I said, in a clear-eyed way, where you don't get too lost in, bad break for us. I feel so bad about these guys losing who they lost. You can be human about it and feel bad for them, but you also have to figure out, well, is this really sustainable, or are we kidding ourselves just a little bit? Dan, you're making it sound like it's a day of reckoning and pivot point for the franchise. Just win, baby, and let's extend the run into May. I don't know if he's talking about the Wolves or the Wild there. I would say for both of them, it is a pivot point. Not that everything changes if you win or lose, but I'm just a big believer in winning series. And we haven't won enough series in this town, in hockey or basketball, to take any of that for granted.
It's very, very true.
So for me, and adding the injury part on the Wolves side is what I think gives this series, to me, it makes it more interesting. And it's richer, and it adds a dimension. They obviously would rather not have to be in that dimension. And in the case of the Wild, it might very well be a day of reckoning or a pivot point, because either this game or game 7, if they lose tonight, because you can't make a run, I looked it up, until you win the first round. You still might not make a run. You might lose second round, but the only chance you have to think you can sustain something is to win a series. Start with one series. And here, that hasn't happened in 10 years, as you just heard via Coutinho Mobley. How much do they pay him, do you think, to do those little announcements?
What do they pay you?
Yeah, what do they pay the guys?
I'm guessing it's just part of whatever contract he already has with us.
It's to my question about which fans are going to hang in more, it's the Wild. Who's going to be at the Wolves game? There will be no one there to boo. You out of your mind? There'll be plenty of people there. How long they hang with it is a good question.
Yep.
And has there been the ticket demand? There might be if Anthony Edwards and Dante were healthy. No,
there has not been.
Realistically, not, because they just released, I think, some more tickets.
I watch it all day, every day. I'm always interested in it.
But I wouldn't say it's going to be empty. I think that's a hockey guy. It's 507 Boston.
Yeah,
guy. That's what he's just trying to get it going.
Here's the people I want to hear from.
Yeah,
because I'm looking at the sports calendar for Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure, let me just hit refresh to make sure, because I've been known to screw this up before. Today's April 30th, right?
Today is, last day of April.
The Twins play the Blue Jays at 6:40. Who's going to that game and why?
It's mostly sunny. A little brisk.
It's colder than it looks.
Yeah, it is cold.
I went for a walk this afternoon. No good for me while I was here. It's freezing.
Well, somebody tried to tell me that, or texted, but I looked it up, and I don't think it's true, that the Twins are so desperate to get people in the building that they suggested to Wolves fans that you come down early for the $2 beers and then go on to see the Wolves. That sounded, I think, satirical. I think so. I think even the Twins would not have that level of shame,
Or do they have it in them to do a split screen on the Jumbotron?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up.
It really won't even be a split screen, but just pop in the Wild game on one of the big TVs, and then later it would be the Wolves. But
yes. Let me ask you a philosophical question, because maybe I missed it. So, before Game 4, or during Game 4 for the Wolves, the Wild were also playing that night, correct?
Yes.
Wild game went into OT, but then we got a score, a Wild victory during, I don't know at what point in the Wolves game, but we got it. Why is it that not announced to the crowd? Is there a rule in place that you never give another team the floor for that minute? Because I'm thinking in that situation, nothing would be, would please fans more.
It would unite people.
To hear a dramatic that was the OT game, right?
Yes.
Did we win OT?
Yes.
Why would you not announce that with great grandiosity? I mean, turn it into a bit.
I'm surprised they didn't, because that happens
Unless
a lot.
I missed it. I don't think they did.
I was there. I don't think they did either.
Yeah.
And I may have missed it as well. That does happen a lot at all kinds of different arenas. That kind of stuff happens. Like if you're at a Gopher football game and they announce that UMass has beaten Wisconsin in September, they announce it, right? Because people go crazy. So that does surprise me. I do know our guy Municky responded to somebody today that there will be quite a few TVs in the concourse at Target Center that are dedicated to showing the Wild game tonight.
Good touch.
Won't be in the the bowl, obviously, while the game's going on, but there are plenty of TVs around the concourses, because they have a million of them, that will be showing the Wild game, which again is smart.
Yeah.
Because this is one Minnesota after all.
By the way, during this break coming up, will you, because I'm still getting texts from people saying the Twins did say as much on their X account, but when I look, maybe I wasn't looking at the right Twins X account.
I'll look.
Claiming that they actually are desperate enough that that's exactly what they said. Meantime,
FanandBigDeck.com. Want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks. It is our national cash contest. And win, WIN, is the 4 o'clock keyword. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword win.
Russo from the Fallness Studios. He will preview Wild Stars at the bottom of the hour. Nick Halter, Axios.com, is next. Russo Radio coming up at the bottom of the hour. He will preview Wild versus the Dallas Stars. Wolves, of course, in action tonight as well on the Timberwolves channel. Nick Halter, kind enough to join us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. He is these days Axios Twin Cities.com guy. Welcome back to the program. Thank you once again for the time. And given that the Wolves are in action tonight, the timing is pretty good of a scoop that you revealed earlier today, which I think kind of did dovetail nicely with the last time you were on this show regarding possible sites, at least in the imagination of the new owners, for the Minnesota Timberwolves' new arena. That, of course, along with the Lynx. And we talked about City Center, even though there were a lot of limitations and difficulties. And it sounds like your sources are saying that is the site that the mayor seems to be pushing pretty heavily. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, he's kind of latched onto this site, and my sources tell me he's been, pushing it in talks with the Timberwolves. I know they've met a few times over the winter, and this really is where he wants the arena. He likes the idea of having an arena right at Nicollet Mall.
There are complications, right? In fact, I think we talked about some of those last time. Are the complications the footprint itself? It's the example like the Marriott Hotel, which I think would be in this mix. What are some of the hurdles that would have to be cleared to make this more viable as a possibility?
Yeah, there's a few big ones. You mentioned the site being pretty small and narrow. It is bigger than the Target Center site by about 40%, but is still relatively small compared to most NBA arenas. The Wolves have also they've said they've wanted more of an entertainment district to build out where they could have, hotels, restaurants. You've seen this in other cities where they do these arenas. And this site is kind of boxed in by other buildings. So that's kind of a limitation with it. And then the other thing is it's a 51-story office tower. And even though it's mostly empty, I've heard estimates that range between $25 and $50 million to tear that thing down. So there would be a heavy cost to demolishing it. And yeah, there's a hotel operating on there. It's owned separately. Mm-hmm. I haven't been able to get a hold of the owners to see if they're willing to sell, but I don't know that it's the greatest time to be owning a downtown hotel still. So I don't know how much of a hurdle that would end up being. Do
you get a sense? I mean, the mayor publicly has made it pretty clear, on financing, this needs to be privately financed. But is there indication that he'd be willing to try to play ball or help facilitate some sort of I don't know if it would be tax breaks, whether it had stuff to do with the property itself? What do we know, or what do we think we know about the mayor's role and how helpful he might try to be?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot at play here because they have a lease at Target Center still. The city owns Target Center, and so for one, there's a $50 million payment to break that lease. Yeah. There's still debt on that arena, so that's a piece of it. You'd have to decide who pays what. Mm-hmm. And then what you do with Target Center afterwards, that land, that building and land. And then, usually these deals, I mean, I've never seen a deal where the arena pays a property tax, but you have to get the city to sign off on that. So even if it's not a direct subsidy, you make that property tax exempt. And then, there's the question of will they ask for public subsidies or not? But so that's kind of why it matters where the mayor wants it, because if you're kind of playing ball with each other, like the mayor has some say over where it goes too.
This at City Center, there ain't much in it at this point, correct?
Yeah, Target was the main tenant there for many years. They had 1 million square feet of office space. It was the majority of that tower. They just consolidated all of their employees down to they have 2 other buildings on Nicollet Mall, just south of there. There's a couple law firms in there still. There's some retail tenants on the Skyway level. Tom's Watch Bar is in there, which has become kind of a popular pregame place. But it is largely empty. It is up for sale as well. And I don't think it's going to cost much to buy it.
Where does the old Dayton's project fit into this whole thing?
So that's kind of the mayor's counter to the idea that the Wolves wouldn't be able to do like a development deal around it, is that you have other buildings surrounding this that, again, you can probably have on the cheap, and that would present some options. And the one I point to is it is right next door to the old Dayton's department store. It just went through a massive renovation, and it's already going to be foreclosed on because they haven't been able to lease that building up either. They built out a huge food hall for Andrew Zimmern in there that never opened, a space for it, I should say. Well, you could point to that and say, what if that's you do bars and restaurants in that building? You could do, perhaps hotels or other uses for the rest of that building. there are options around there to do that, but it isn't your typical sort of arena district that you see, like, for example, in Milwaukee, you know?
Sure. The folks you talk to on this story, what kind of indication do you get from the Wolves side of it? Is there belief that they have identified the new owners, that this being their first choice if some of those hurdles can be cleared, or do they have different ideas? We know they want to be downtown, first and foremost.
Yeah.
In terms of among the various sites that have been discussed, is this at the top of their list?
My sense is it's not. They do want to be downtown Minneapolis. They're casting a wide net. They've said that as much publicly, and they've even said that they'll talk to suburbs as well. But yeah, I think they would like more land. Alex Rodriguez has previously pointed towards the farmers market site.
Yeah.
And that's always been a big site that people have talked about, going back to the Twins ballpark and then the soccer team after that. I don't think the mayor is as high on that site. It doesn't really do much for downtown Minneapolis. You're sort of walled off by freeways over there, and you're a pretty long distance from downtown, so you don't get kind of those people coming into downtown in the same way.
Texter wants to know whether an enterprising new St. Paul mayor would push the old Sears site for a new Timberwolves arena if it's a big enough parcel of land, given its proximity to light rail and freeways.
I don't see it. I think that sports teams like to be in the West Metro because there's more money on that side of the city, and you're really trying to get money for the suites and the clubs and the lounges and that kind of a thing. And I think there's always been more of a desire to be West Metro there. Now, is there a world in which you could ever join the two teams in one arena? I don't know. I've always wondered about that as well. Do we need to? Most cities have both their hockey and basketball teams playing in the same one, but I think the Wild are still pretty focused on renovating Axios.
I don't know.
I should say Grand Casino.
Sorry about that. We are indeed chatting with Nick Halter, Axios TwinCities.com. Let me ask you about, and I don't know how much reporting you've done on this, and I don't remember even the amount of money that the folks at St. Paul are interested in getting for the Wild's arena, but because they're literally asking for money from the state. The folks I've talked to say there's no appetite for it this time around. Maybe there would be in the future, but is that on the Wild side harder to finesse if there's at least a sense that whatever the Wolves are going to do, it's going to be mainly private, and meanwhile, we've got another team in town that's asking for a bucket load of money directly from the state?
I'm not sure I understand. Are you like wondering if it's going to be harder ask from the state, if that's the case?
Harder ask from the Wild and Associates to get the money that they're asking for, because it doesn't appear that the Wolves are asking for that, at least that kind of literally, write us a check for $250 million, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm not 100% sure they won't eventually ask the state for money, Timberwolves. Right. I know they've said they'll do it privately, but I don't think they've written that off as a possibility. So I don't know how much that will sell, but at the state, but I mean, the city of St. Paul is asking for a lot of money for beyond just the arena as well. They want a big money for a big park there too.
Yeah, and I don't know if that makes it easier to finesse because it's not just identified necessarily as for the hockey, the private entity, the hockey franchise. I'm not sure, but I think it's an interesting contrast at least for now. Lastly, the assumption is that if you're talking suburbs. And I don't know if the new owners, I don't know if A-Rod and Mark Laurie have expressed any interest in this. It would be near Mall of Hysteria, right? It would be Bloomington area. That would be the natural spot because there's so much room to do stuff.
Yeah, they haven't indicated at one site, but if there was a suburban play, it would certainly be Bloomington. Yeah. I've asked the mayor, and he's avoided the question if they would make a play for them. But yeah, there's plenty of land down there. It's on a light rail line. There's parking down there. That would make sense on some regards. The city of Bloomington, the Bloomington Port Authority has something like $400 million that they can spend on economic development down there. Wow. So there is that possibility. But there's no NBA arena, I think, except for the Clippers that don't play in like the city proper. Like it's not really a suburban league. So I don't know how realistic that is. But as you've seen in other cities and other teams, it's nice to put out the possibility of the suburbs. You look at the Chicago Bears and the whole thing with Indiana.
Yeah.
I mean, that does bring people to the negotiating table when you have other options.
Last item. I'm running a little late. We've got Russo coming up. We'll push him off just for a minute because this text, I think, is indicative of a feeling that some people have. The question is, how rampant is it? He writes, as a married father of 3 kids, I live in an affluent suburb. I have a professional job. I just got to say it. None of us really want to go downtown Minneapolis anymore. It's empty, has crime, poorly run, not appealing. I would assume my demographic is who will buy Wolves tickets. Now, we hear this. I'm not sure it's as widespread as this texter suggests, but what would you say to that individual in terms of how big a factor that actually is in preventing would-be, in this case, basketball fans, obviously, from coming down to see the Wolves?
Well, I would say 2 things. One, the Timberwolves did a fan survey, I think last year at some point, asking people about where they want the arena, what they like. This would be a question that people could have responded to. So if that is an overwhelming feeling that people have, they would get notice of that. Now, they have done that survey, and they still seem very committed to downtown Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. So if that is a large... I can't imagine that's as large of a sentiment as maybe the texter is saying, at least not showing up in their surveys. The reality is when you're leaving leaving or going to a Timberwolves game, there's just thousands of people out on the street. It's a different vibe.
True.
I know that if it's not a big crowd there's a different feeling, but people generally feel pretty safe before and after a Timberwolves game just because of the masses of people. I
appreciate the time. We'll be in touch as this story plays out. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for having me, Dan.
Always a pleasure. Nick Halter, Axios Twin Cities.com. Guardsy, texter Clement writes, it's an interesting reminder. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves, not the Minneapolis Timberwolves. Why can't the team play in St. Paul? Is it the Minneapolis Timberwolves?
It's not.
It was the Minneapolis Lakers.
And they're in Los Angeles.
But it's the Minnesota Timberwolves, ladies and gentlemen.
My sources tell me they absolutely wouldn't mind going to St. Paul.
Really?
If need be. It's just what my sources are telling me.
Tantalizing. Got to be the right deal.
I heard from them pretty quickly. I'm just going to say.
Fascinating.
They could own a lot in St. Paul. There's a lot.
Well, you could probably get better bang for your buck.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
But then you're in St. Paul.
It's not bad.
I'm just saying.
It's not bad over there.
Okay. No, but they're fighting perception. That's what's weird about this. People constantly say, well, I don't want to go down to Minneapolis. Is it St. Paul so far off the radar screen that they don't even bother to mention that they wouldn't go to St. Paul?
It doesn't come up.
You know what I mean? It's very interesting. All right, we're late. Let's get to, speaking of St. Paul.
Russo's there.
Downtown St. Paul. Russo Radio will help us preview Wild taking on the Dallas Stars. Unlike the Wolves, your favorite hockey team is pretty healthy, relatively healthy. We'll get an injury update, and we'll get whatever Russo thinks we should be talking about as we prepare for a terrific opportunity for the Wild to close the door on the Dallas Stars. Early start tonight for your Minnesota Wild pregame show will begin on the Fan at promptly 6 p.m. Russo Radio joins us now from the decrepit Fallness Studios. The Brodin injury update is he is out tonight. How long do we think he's going to be out?
I mean, just seeing him after the game the other night, and well, first of all, seeing him on the bench when he put one foot down on the ice and to go to the locker room and cringed right away with any weight on it, that wasn't a good sign. And then we saw him leave the arena with a walking boot and crutches, so that just doesn't lead me to believe that he's going to be back anytime soon. It is the playoffs. But obviously, that's a huge loss for tonight. And a potential Game 7, or if they go into a Colorado series, the way that Brodin and Spurgeon have been all playoffs long, I mean, they've been outstanding. That's a big loss. But first things first, they got to win tonight.
With Zuccarello back, is overconfidence our only enemy at this point?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, you're still playing a really, really good game. And so, the only enemy is definitely still the Dallas Stars, and whether or not some of these stars for the stars that have been some of these Dallas stars that have been silent. The Rantanens and even the Wyatt Johnstons, that they're always, a shot or two away from really making life difficult for you. They've scrambled everything tonight. They're scratching Tyler Myers, which was their, big trade deadline pickup. He was so bad last game that he's not even going to play tonight. They're throwing in Michael Bunting, which is definitely an agitator, and they're putting him on a line with their king agitator, Jamie Benn. So, look, I mean, I don't think overconfidence is the only enemy. I mean, they've got to go out and win a big game. This is a huge, huge opportunity for them to do this at home. The last time that this happened, that they went on the road and won a huge Game 5 to take a 3-2 series lead was the last time that they won a playoff round, and that was 2015. And so I really feel good about the way that they're going to play tonight, but you still got a huge, huge, formidable opponent in front of you.
We now take it for granted that what Foligno said at the beginning of the series, that the Stars do not want to play they can't play with the Wild 5-on-5, as true, as a given. But how did we get here exactly? I mean, why have the Wild been as successful or Dallas as frustrated when it's been 5-on-5 or even strength?
Yeah, I think it's myriad reasons. I think one is the Wild's physicality. I do think that in a 7-game series, there just comes a point where you don't want to take it anymore, and the Wild have been the more physical team in the series. There was one check the other night in the third period where I think it was Bixel that got hit by Foligno, and he looked like he didn't want to even get up off the ice. It was like those are the type of hits that just you just come to a point where that's why you want to play physical, because the goal is that eventually in a 7-game series it just takes its toll. So I think that's one part of it. I think the way that the Wild have defended in the neutral zone have really limited a really good rush team in Dallas's ability to get odd man rushes. I think on the back check they've come back hard, and they've protected the middle of the ice, which has been their Achilles heel specifically against Dallas over the years. The other night they blocked 26 shots, so that just shows you how well that they're protecting Wallstedt in a game where he didn't feel like he was on top of his game the other night. So I think that's part of it. Dallas, though, at 5-on-5, the last couple playoffs have, even though they've gone far, they've been power play merchants. They haven't been a good 5-on-5. So I think when Marcus said that and that quote was to me actually, that they couldn't hang with the Wild at 5-on-5. It wasn't so much as a shot as him saying that their goal is to get 5-on-4s because they know how good they are in that situation. Their power play has been historically good this year. It's a franchise record. It's 11th best of all time. And so they want to play on the power play, and they've scored 9 times on the power play in this series, and their goal that pulled them within 1 the other night was a 4-on-4 with Jake Ottinger on the bench, so it became a 5-on-4. So the Wild have essentially given up 10 goals in the series at 5-on-4, but they've outscored this team dramatically at 5-on-5.
Obviously, the Wild fans would have more reason to believe that their team could, even if the Wild lose tonight, win Game 7, than in the case of the Wolves, who face the same situation for all the reasons that are obvious. But I got to tell you something. I'm a firm believer in not messing with an opportunity, because it's easy to say, well, hey, the Wild have already proven they can play with the Stars and win in Dallas. But every game takes on a life of its own, and you never know how that's going to go. Maybe that's the game where your goalie is a little bit off. So I'm a big believer in, man, take advantage of it right in front of you right now.
Yeah, and that's something that the Wild haven't done at home pretty much historically in the postseason. And so I'm with you. I feel for the Wolves. Obviously tonight a huge game, but there's just so many injuries that you could take. And so if you don't take care of business tonight and then have to go to Denver and win a big Game 7, I mean, that is a real tough challenge. Where, conversely, I do agree with you that I think the Wild absolutely could win a Game 7 in Dallas. They've won twice this series down there. But you have every opportunity here at home tonight to exercise some major demons. This could be, look, it's 25-year anniversary of this franchise. This was the year that they finally stopped, using the Parisian and Suter buyouts as an excuse. And it almost would be appropriate for this to be the year to put this first-round exit thing to bed. And now is the best time to do it. There's a lot of guys on this team that have been part of many of those playoff exits. And, the Spurgeons, the Folignos, The Eriksson X, obviously Brodin's out tonight, but the Brodins, they wanted to put it to bed. But even guys like Boldy and Faber, they're just tired of it, tired of talking about it, tired of hearing it. I can guarantee you Guerin wants them to, quote, get off the hump. So get over the hump. So tonight is just a huge. I love the forwards that John Hines is throwing out there tonight. I think he made the necessary moves. Danilo Yurov just looks to me like the moment has been a little too big for him so far. Doesn't mean he's not going to get back in the postseason at some time. And then the other night, it just felt like Nico Sturm could have stabilized some things the other night. And when you move Trenyan up to that third line with McCarron and Tarasenko, I don't think it was a coincidence that Trenyan made the huge play for the McCarron huge goal that turned out to be the winner. And so it just makes sense to try to get Bobby Brink probably up in the press box to give him a little breather and go with Sturm, who's really good in Game 4. The blue line concerns me tonight, not having Brodin in there. I would have played Damon Hunt because I also think that if they win this series and you're going into a Colorado series without Jonas Brodin, you're going to have to use Damon Hunt in that series. So why not give him his first NHL game in the playoffs today? Get him used to the environment, get the nerves a little bit out of the way, because taking a Zach Bogosian who's been broken down, he's got a couple ankle injuries right now that he's playing through, and now put him on the left side with Petrie. It just seems a little bit problematic, and something that maybe if they get too much ice time that Dallas could take advantage of tonight. So I would have gone with the lefty-righty thing. But obviously I'm not the coach.
When and how did Zuccarello become as valuable as he is now perceived?
Well, I just think that it's more to do with Kirill. I mean, he is. Look, there's no doubt when you play with one line mate for the majority of the year, you're going to just develop chemistry, whoever it was. So if Bobby Brink or Vladimir Tarasenko played with Kirill all year long, I don't think it would have been such a shock for him to not suddenly have Zuccarello there. So I think that's part of it. But then there's just something about Zuccarello. As we have seen, there's just few players in this league that pass the puck like him, and he puts it into Kirill's wheelhouse. And so they just have this innate chemistry with each other. On the power play, look, there have been obviously times in the last 7 years that Zuccarello has been here that their power play hasn't been great. But this year it's been third best in the league, and once he came back in November, this team took off and their power play took off, and he's the brains of the operation, and he just settles things down. He's got that ability to draw defenders to him, to create seams for other people. And, it's, as I think I joked with you the other day, I mean, they're going to have to figure that out because he's 38 with no contract next year. So, this can't be, he's not going to play forever or even maybe past this year. So they are going to have to eventually figure that out with Kirill and find him somebody that he can have that same type of chemistry with on the right way.
Well, I don't even know if you've had a chance to have these kind of conversations with him. But I mean, has he still got a taste for it? I mean, is it the kind of thing where the feeling is he's just close to saying, been a great run, but I'm done?
Yeah. I don't know. I have not talked to him in a while about it. We talked to him earlier this year and he had no idea. And I just haven't. I almost asked him the other day when he and I were shooting the breeze in the locker room, but it just felt like that wasn't the right time. Right. And I don't, they're in the middle of a playoff series. I don't even want to put that in his head where he starts thinking, wow, this could be it for me. So look, it'll be obviously the biggest question after whenever their final game is, one of the biggest questions whenever that is. But, look, he could still play the game. He's still a really, really good player, but he's a proud player too. And if he feels like that his role would be diminished or that his game isn't up to his standards, I do hear that he's building a dream home or has built a dream home, in Norway. So, he can go and live a very happy life.
That'd be a difficult commute, necessarily, to enjoy that home and still play for the Minnesota Wild. I think it was Walsey. Wes Walls had a stat. Do you remember it, Guardsy? That laid out basically Wild's record this season.
The win percentage.
Like with him and without it. And it was dramatic.
Yeah.
Between, I think they were basically 500 without him. And then it was like in the 600s, upper, like 650, I thought, with him.
Well, remember, he came back early November. He missed the first month of the season, and they were god-awful in October. Yeah. And the second he came back, everything seemed to take off. I mean, he's an important player. The other thing about him is he just evens out the lines. Where now, it's hard. Like, I know a lot of fans were clamoring for it, but it's hard to play Boldy, Eriksson Ek, and Kaprizov together when you don't have Zuccarello in the lineup, because now all of a sudden just your bottom 9 becomes almost inefficient offensively, where at least with Zuccarello there, you know that you have a really good second scoring line in Johansson and Eriksson and Boldy. So, look, I have all the respect in the world for Zuccarello. I think he's, look, I know that there were some cynics out there almost making fun of the media for pointing out the fact that this team had fallen apart. It's felt like on the power play without him.
I would never do
Kirill
that.
wasn't scoring goals and things like that. But, those of us that are around the team and just sees how the trees shake here and the leaves fall off, like, we just know what he means to this lineup. And it's definitely remarkable how good he's been.
So is the equation, if I oversimplify it, is it oversimplifying it to say stay out of the box again tonight?
Yeah, I mean, look, their power play has just been excellent, and you just worry because at some point it just feels like at 5-5 they're going to score. It's been 217 minutes and 53 seconds since that's happened. It's crazy. It's been since the Robertson goal in Game 3. I do think that they've got to continue to be really, really disciplined. Look, they've shaken up their lines tonight. They're going to be very desperate. They threw Michael Bunting in, who I mentioned is one of the big agitators in the league. Yeah. It's just important that they don't get goaded into that type of play, because we saw it happen in Dallas in 2023, and it killed them. And so they've got to just be smart. Marcus Foligno was on with PA this morning and said basically that they've challenged Jamie Benn, umpteen times in the series to a fight. He's not willing to. If he's not willing to, you can't go out and still try to avenge all these dirty plays that he's been doing from game to game to game. So it's just look, go out, win a game tonight. That's the most important thing.
Well, that's what I was going to ask if Foligno gets the memo, because he's at the top of the list of people who seems to understand it, but then sometimes just can't help himself. That combination.
Yeah, I mean, so far he's been really disciplined in the series for the most part, and he seems to have learned his lesson. Same thing with Ryan Hartman. The two of them were in 2023 with the guys.
That's right.
That kind of became unglued, and so far they've been really, really smart. And look, it takes a lot. I mean, to skate away from some of this stuff when you see Matt Boldy getting ripped on, or Jamie Benn the other night going after Bobby Brink. I mean, my God, if you're not going to fight, at least try to hit a Marcus Foligno, not a Brink or a Zuccarello or something like that, but whatever.
So, this question's probably a little bit premature, but I know people are thinking it already. Has enough happened thus far that the Wild are going to have to completely rethink the future at goalie?
Well, look, people keep on asking me, if they're going to trade Philip Gustafson this offseason, and look, Philip's got a fall no move, but they don't have to trade either of these guys. First of all, Philip had a great regular season, and there is no reason that all of a sudden they got to trade Philip Gustafson this offseason or even approach him about that. The only reason why Wallstedt became a big thing this season is because the Wild felt that there was a way, and they did shop him around, of getting that true number one center or another star in here by using him as the chip.
Yep.
So that could still be the case this offseason. Does this, to me, rethink a lot of things? From an organization standpoint, yes, which would be very, very ironic that if, again, they finally have this chip that could actually finally get them that number one center, and now they don't want to use it because he looks like he's going to be just an absolute stud goalie. So that's what could make everything rethink. But it's not like there's no reason why everybody keeps on asking me, is Philip Gustafson going to get traded this offseason? There's no reason to even go up to him and move him. He's not getting you Austin Matthews. I do think that they are absolutely going to have to revisit and analyze whether or not they're going to want to trade him and use him as that chip.
Exactly. That's
but I don't think
the issue.
But I don't think it means anything that they have to trade a Philip Gustafson. You could come back. Philip Gustafson is going to, and Jesper Wallstedt are making less than $9 million combined next year. That is perfectly fine for two really good goalies. So I don't think that. I think the only thing that would make them revisit is just analyzing whether or not you want to trade Wallstedt.
That to me is the key to it. Has he done enough at some point where you go, that's off the table. Sorry, we can't afford
Bill
to do
Guerin.
that.
You know Bill. He does not think like that.
That's true.
I don't think that all of a sudden, if they just go on a run or that if all of a sudden he had the ability to get a Jack Hughes or a Dylan Larkin or a Brady Tkachuk or an Austin Matthews, and it cost Jesper Wallstedt, I don't think that would stop him from doing it. I do think,
Interesting.
especially the way that goaltending is in today's NHL.
Yes.
I mean, we're watching Colorado maybe go and win a cup with Scott Wedgwood in net, like a career backup. And every year we just see goalies that is just such a position now where it's erratic, where you don't know what you're going to get, and or that you could figure out a way to get by or get a replacement. So I don't think that this is. Let's put it this way: I think it's premature.
The crowd. What do you expect tonight? I mean, the assumption is it should be very hungry. The only downside is it's an early start, so not as much time to drink, I guess. But
yeah.
I got to believe. I mean, it's what you've been waiting for. You got a chance to see your team finally advance out of the first round and do it right in front of you.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And the other thing is it's not an 8:50 start, so these fans are also going to be really, really, I think, jacked up at the very beginning. Obviously, yeah, as you mentioned, they're not going to be as lubricated,
boozed,
maybe.
but yeah.
Although I was just, drove down here, and it's definitely busier than normally it would be at this
And hold
time
on,
of day.
as a hockey dad, I got to step in. Hockey, we can find a way to drink anywhere at any time.
That's
all right?
good. Yeah.
The safety meetings,
start
the
at
parking
noon?
lots.
Yeah.
You know Lori Fisher. I mean,
Yeah,
there's the 6:30 is not going to deter anybody.
That's the box,
They will,
exactly.
Yeah, they will find a way. Sorry, go
They
ahead,
probably
Russo.
started last night.
Exactly
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But, to your point, I mean, look, they are going to be jacked, and it's important that the Wild keep them jacked. Earlier this playoff round, Game 3, this fan base was absolutely electric to start the game. Justin Jefferson did maybe the best Let's Play hockey I'd ever heard, and a minute into the game, it was 1-0 Dallas.
Yeah,
So it's still up to the Wild to keep them into the game, but I expect the crowd to be anxious tonight, excited, and in their eyes, hoping to see this first round exit narrative finally be put to bed.
Have fun tonight. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Absolutely. See ya.
Russo Radio from Fallness Studios at the arena formerly known as the X. All of the coverage beyond what you've already received will begin at the top of the 6 o'clock hour. Extended pregame show and opening faceoff scheduled for just past 6:30 on the flagship. Wolves will be on, I'm assuming, the Timberwolves channel.
And Twin Cities News Talk, AM 1130,
about that.
103.5 FM.
We've been doing that too. So that's another good option for you. So you got all the bases covered tonight, whether you are a basketball fan or a hockey fan, or perhaps even a little bit of both, if there is such a thing. And I think there is, actually, as much as the hockey hardcores and the basketball hardcores don't want to accept it. Real quick, speaking of that, Alan in Afton was listening when we were chatting about my disappointment that it doesn't seem like there's enough cross-pollination, that like if you're the basketball team, you're playing at home, and there's a final result, a good one actually in this case, indicating that the Wild have won their playoff game, why not announce it to the fans, get them going crazy? Alan in Afton writes, rumor has it that Johnny Athletic told the Target Center PA announcer to hold the Wild win announcement on Tuesday. Truly a petty way of showing his disdain for the hockey community. Can you rule it out? I would not rule it out. I would not.
Ooh, boy.
He describes himself, does Alan in Afton, as a K Fallness burner account. Dr. Ned's inbox, speaking of that, will be opened at about 5:30 today. Top 5 at 5 will include
all the injuries for all the playoff games, and we might let you know the Twins have a game too.